We've all heard the mantra, love yourself first, put yourself first. Self-care is self-love. It sounds so good, doesn't it? It sounds empowering, healing, even revolutionary. But here's the catch. What if self-love is not always what it seems? What if it's not the key to freedom? What if, in some cases, it's the key to narcissism? Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But sometimes, what we call self-love is nothing more than self-obsession. We are taught to love ourselves, yes, but the way society defines it. As if self-love is about endless validation, constant affirmation, and an almost religious devotion to doing what feels good. But let's face it, real love is not always comfortable. Real love involves accountability. It involves growth. And sometimes it involves pain. Real love requires you to confront your flaws, not just pamper them. It asks you to question your actions, not just tell yourself you're enough while ignoring the things you could be better at. The problem with modern self-love culture is that it tells you that to be happy, you should only surround yourself with what makes you feel good. You deserve all the pleasure, all the comfort, all the joy. And it's true. You do deserve those things. But at what cost? When does self-love become self-indulgence? When does it transform from healthy boundaries to a wall that keeps you isolated in your own delusions? Because real self-love isn't just about getting your nails done or treating yourself to a nice meal. It's about making the hard choices. It's about calling yourself out when you're wrong. It's about not settling for the easy path. It's about holding yourself accountable for your actions, your choices, and your impact on the world around you. When you love yourself truly, you don't just say, "I'm enough." You say, "I'm enough, but I can grow. I'm enough, but I can be better. I'm enough, but I can help others." We live in an age of self-care. Everywhere you turn, someone's telling you, take care of yourself, take a bath, go on vacation. You deserve it. But ask yourself, how many times have you treated yourself only to end up feeling emptier than before? The world tells you that loving yourself means prioritizing your own comfort, your own happiness, your own needs. But what if loving yourself means something deeper? Carl Jung wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." Because self-love isn't just about indulging in pleasure. It's about being honest. It's about standing in the face of your darkness and still accepting yourself. Self-love is not about avoiding pain. It's about facing it, growing from it, and finding peace through your truth. And that's where modern self-love culture falls short. It sells you an illusion that all you need is to love yourself more, pamper yourself more, and you'll be happy. But what happens when you love yourself so much that you forget to question yourself? What happens when self-love becomes an excuse to avoid the tough conversations, to avoid your own flaws, and to avoid the responsibility of change? This is where it gets toxic. Because self-love that isn't rooted in self-awareness becomes self-obsession. And self-obsession isolates you from real growth. Real love isn't about turning a blind eye to your weaknesses. It's about accepting them and choosing to do better. Real love isn't about ignoring the things that make you uncomfortable. It's about facing them and choosing growth over comfort. If you want true self-love, you need to embrace your shadow. You need to admit the parts of you that aren't perfect, the parts of you that still need work, the parts of you that are afraid, angry, vulnerable. Because when you only love the version of yourself that feels good, you miss the chance to truly know who you are. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But you can't do that if you're constantly running from your own darkness, if you're only focusing on the light. Self-love isn't about ignoring your shadows. It's about integrating them. In the next part, we'll dive deeper into what happens when you ignore the shadow, and how it can ruin not only your self-love, but your relationships, your career, and your connection with the world around you. We live in a world that tells us to love ourselves, and that's not a bad thing. But we've misunderstood what love really means. It's easy to love the parts of ourselves that are shiny, that are accepted, that are deemed good. The charming smile, the helpful nature, the hard-working ethic. But those parts are only one side of the coin, and if we neglect the other side, we risk becoming slaves to it. Carl Jung's shadow is that part of us we try to hide from the world, the parts of us we're ashamed of, the parts we're afraid to face, the anger, the jealousy, the selfishness, the dark thoughts, the things we've been taught to reject. But here's the problem with that. When we refuse to acknowledge the shadow, it doesn't disappear. It grows. It sneaks into our relationships, our actions, our choices. And because we've failed to integrate it, we create patterns of behavior that harm us and the people around us. Self-love culture, as we know it today, teaches you to run from these things. It says, don't face your flaws, just love the version of you that's easiest to love. But that's not self-love, that's self-deception. Self-love isn't about ignoring your darkness, it's about looking at it head-on. It's about saying, yes, I have weaknesses. Yes, I have parts of myself that I don't like, but I accept them, and I'm committed to understanding them. You cannot heal what you refuse to see, and when you don't look at your own darkness, you project it onto others. Jung explained that the shadow isn't just a personal issue, it affects how we relate to the world. He said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And that's exactly what happens when we ignore our shadows. They don't just stay hidden in our minds, they start directing our behavior. You find yourself resenting people for things you've never told them. You find yourself snapping at loved ones for reasons you don't understand. You find yourself repeating patterns of failure because you refuse to confront the deeper issue. So, what's the answer? Self-love isn't about pampering yourself. It's about integrating your darkness, about accepting your shadow and learning to love it, not by ignoring it, but by acknowledging it and finding peace with it. Because only then can you live in true authenticity. Only then can you step into your full power. In the next part, we'll dive deeper into the consequences of ignoring the shadow in your relationships and life, and how embracing the darkness of self-love is the only way to truly heal. If you've ever felt like you're not enough, or like your darkness is something you have to hide to be good enough, then stop right here. Because you don't need to be perfect to be worthy. You don't need to love only the light parts of you to heal. It's time to embrace the whole you, shadow and all. Hit subscribe. If you're ready to face your truth, to stop running from the parts of you that make you uncomfortable. Because the road to real self-love isn't easy, but it's the only one that leads to freedom. Don't just exist. You think you're loving yourself by avoiding your shadows. You tell yourself, I'm not like those people who are angry, jealous, insecure. I'm not like them. I'm better than that. But the more you hide your shadow, the more it controls you. When you refuse to face your darkness, it doesn't just stay hidden. It leaks into everything, and it leaks most dangerously into the relationships you care about most. It's in the way you hold back when your partner does something that hurts you. It's in the way you feel drained after spending time with friends, but you don't say anything. It's in the way you avoid conflict, even when it's necessary for healing. The truth is, you can't love others fully until you love yourself completely. And that means accepting your flaws, your anger, your sadness, your flaws, all the parts you've been taught to reject. And if you don't accept your flaws, you'll project them onto the people you love. If you refuse to admit that you have insecurities, you'll accuse your partner of being insecure. If you refuse to admit that you have jealousy, you'll accuse your friends of being selfish. But here's the catch. None of it is really about them. It's all about you. Carl Jung said, "The shadow is the thing we do not want to acknowledge, but what we do not acknowledge controls us. And when you refuse to see your own darkness, you stop being present, you stop being authentic, and you end up disconnected. Your relationships suffer not because they are broken, but because you refuse to be honest with yourself. What happens when you don't face the shadow? You start demanding others change for you. You blame others for your emotional discomfort instead of accepting that the discomfort comes from your own inner turmoil. You start distancing yourself from people who reflect your shadow. You become passive-aggressive. You become bitter. And you start wondering why your connections feel shallow. Here's the tough truth. The only way to heal your relationships is to heal yourself first. But you can't heal if you're only focused on making everything around you feel good. You have to start by looking inward, by accepting the parts of you that feel ugly, that feel uncomfortable, that make you feel less than. When you integrate the shadow, you stop projecting, you stop blaming others, you stop expecting everyone else to meet your unspoken needs. Instead, you stand fully in your truth. You begin to love others with honesty. You become the person who can hold space for both your light and your darkness. And when you do that, you don't just become whole. You allow the world to see you in all your complexity. The hardest part of growth isn't the pain, it's the surrender. You've spent years running from your darkness, the jealousy, the anger, the insecurity, the fear of being unlovable. And each time you ran, you built another wall between you and the real you. You taught yourself to believe that the good parts of you were the only ones worthy of love. But you're tired now, aren't you? Tired of pretending you're always fine. Tired of hiding the things that make you human. Tired of being nice just to fit in. You don't want to keep living like this. You don't want to keep fearing the parts of you that you've been taught to suppress. Carl Jung said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And that's exactly what we're doing now. We're not running from our shadow anymore. We're stopping to face it, head on. And here's the truth that comes with it. The moment you stop running from your darkness, you stop hiding your power. You stop pretending. You stop performing. You stop trying to prove your worth. And you start living. You stop being afraid of the anger inside you. You stop being afraid of the jealousy you felt. You stop being afraid of your vulnerability, your sadness, your humanity. Because only when you accept those parts of you can you truly find your strength. Nietzsche said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." And your why, it's your truth. It's not about being perfect. It's about being real. And when you accept that, when you accept the full spectrum of your humanity, you stop being a slave to your emotions. You stop being a slave to the way others see you. You start living your life on your own terms. Because when you integrate your shadow, you're no longer at the mercy of your unconscious. You are the one who directs your life. You aren't controlled by the anger that used to consume you. You aren't manipulated by the fear that used to keep you small. You aren't driven by the insecurities that used to define you. Instead, you are whole. You stop being afraid of being misunderstood because you no longer fear the parts of yourself that make you unique. You no longer need to hide your darkness because it no longer has the power to control you. This is the power of integrating the shadow, the power of becoming who you truly are. And in the next part, we'll explore what happens when you start living fully, when you embrace all parts of yourself, and how the world responds to this new, empowered version of you. This is the final step. The moment you let go of the last illusion that self-love is only about happiness and pleasure. The moment you realize that the strength you've been seeking is already inside you, but it was hidden behind your fear of being incomplete. And now you're free. Free from the chains of perfection. Free from the need to please others. Free from the desire to be seen as good. You stand in your truth, not just the light, but the shadows as well. And here's the beauty of it. When you stop hiding the parts of you that hurt, the parts that are angry, the parts that are broken, you stop being a slave to them. You no longer react. You no longer suppress. You no longer pretend. Instead, you respond with power, with clarity, with authenticity. You become whole, not because you erased your flaws, but because you embraced them. You learn to love the version of yourself that has both light and dark, and in doing so, you become unstoppable. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And this is your privilege, to be fully you in all your complexity, without shame, without fear, without needing to be anything other than who you truly are. And when you do this, the world will see you, not as an idea of who you should be, but as the real, unapologetic you. The nice version of you may have been loved, but the real version of you, he will be respected, he will be understood, and most importantly, he will be free. This isn't just a journey of self-love, it's a journey of self-liberation. Now go ahead, stand tall, and live in your truth. The world is ready for you, and most importantly, you are finally ready for yourself.